Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Welcome to the Wrap Podcast, the place to catch up on all the regional and national rugby in Wales. You can find us on all the usual social media platforms and message us through there if you want, or you can email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. So all the boring stuff out the way, let's talk rugby.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Wrap Podcast. Hope you're all well. I'm Jamie, and joining me, as always, is James and Harley. Good evening, gents. How are we?
Good evening. I am absolutely knackered.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same, but good evening, everyone. How are we?
An excellent start to the pod, this is, isn't it? We're all knackered. Right, okay, well, let's just get into it then. Let's start with News Desk. So, drink of the week first. What are we doing? Drink of the week, of course. Drink of the week, how can I forget? Right, Harley, what have you got for drink of the week?
So, carrying on my run of Padstow Brewing Company beers. So, this one is called Lobster Cake. So, this is a beer that gives money, with every can sold, it gives money to the lobster hatchery in Padstow. It's quite nice, very nice hoppy beer. If you have a look at that, something Lee would absolutely not like the look of.
No, I like the look of that, though.
It's lovely. So my favourite for Padstow Brewing Company for years is this one called Pocket Rocket, and it's just this unfiltered hoppy beer. This, if anything, is an improvement on that. So it's when you think it's no real wonky. Again, Padstow Brewing Company don't really do wonky bollocks. It just says money from this can goes to the lobster hatchery. It's like, oh, okay,
nice.
People like lobsters.
Absolutely, they do. James, what's your drink of the week?
So I have got a hazy IPA called All Star. Big hazy IPA, 5.9%. It's brewed by a company called Only With Love. I was at a pub in the park festival thing in Reigate on the weekend, and I had a taste of this IPA, and it was bloody lovely. So I bought a pack of 3 and a pack of another 3. It's brewed. It's made not far from me, actually, where I am down south. And the wanky bollocks on the back, it says, "Oh yeah, this is the one you've been waiting for. Our big super juiced gobsmacking IPA. Citra, Nelson, and Galaxy are all the stars they'll blow you away with. A hazy fat fruit smash of supernova citrus, gooseberry, peach, and passion fruit." So, but it's very nice and very refreshing.
It sounds good. I think I'd like the sound of that. So carrying on the desserts theme then. So last week I had the apple and blackberry crumble beer, as you remember. This week I've got a jam roly-poly sour from a company called Pretty Decent, who are based in London. I have to say I don't find the taste pretty decent. It doesn't really taste like jam roly-poly, and it is far too sour for my liking. I like a sour beer, don't get me wrong, but this one's a little bit too on the sharp side for me. So, I don't think I'll be having this beer again. There's no real wanky bollocks on the side of the can. It just says, "What goes up must come down, another year down," in brackets, whoop, whoop. So, not too keen on this one, I'm afraid. It's called Deflated, Jam Roly-Poly Sour, 5.5% from the Pretty Decent Beer Company in London. So, that's my beer done. So, now then, let's move on to News Desk. And I suppose the biggest news of the last week was Rhys Webb. So Rhys Webb has been banned for 4 years by the French anti-doping agency. Webb was suspended soon after joining Biarritz last summer after returning a positive test for human growth hormone, HGH, during a training session. So both A and B samples came back positive. This means now the Webb will be ineligible to play rugby until at least 2027, meaning he'll be 38 by the time the ban runs its course. I don't really know what to say about this. I just think it's a shame, really, isn't it? You know, Rhys Webb has had a fine career, and it's a real shame and disappointment that it's ended in this manner, isn't it? What do you make of it, James? Webb being a former Osprey, what do you make of the news?
All the gear, no idea. No. So Rhys Webb has released a statement in response to this. So I think it's important that we cover both sides of the of what's happened. So if I could find his statement, where did he release it?
I didn't see a statement by him, I have to be honest. So yeah,
I can't see where it is. Essentially, it said that the doping agency didn't transport his sample in a safe condition, thus compromising it and things like that. Right. But my thing is, it's not like he's taken a bit of cocaine and got caught, or he's not like the Afai Dianti situation where he was advised to take something and didn't do his due diligence himself. He's taken HGH, which, you know, unfortunately, you're going to get caught, and he has, and they don't mess around in WADA. And you know, you fuck around, you find out, unfortunately. And it's not just playing; he's not allowed to be involved in rugby in any sense for the next 4 years. So he can't do
coaching,
no coaching, no punditry.
No punditry.
No punditry. He's not. I mean, not like we were going to miss much there. I won't lie.
No.
But yeah, so it will very much not be. He won't be at all. So it'll be interesting to see if anything more comes out of it. We'll have to sort of keep. You know, it's taken this long to get to where we are, so I don't. You know, imagine it'll be a while before we see anything else. Put it that way.
Harley, any thoughts on the Rhys Webb news?
Not really, but I mean, I think we're talking about it at the clubhouse, and like, I'm pretty sure basically everyone's on something or another. Like, especially if you look at like a lot of teams in like lower leagues, you always find some, and then you get some who are told, you know, oh, we know when the testing guy's coming in, so you know, just don't turn up to training that day. But it's a bit silly. I mean, initially there was that one thing where you know the WRU was accused, and then that got buried very, very quickly. Then it was, you know, he said, "Oh, it was a mistake," and then we've had basically a whole year of nothing, and then it's just all sort of come out now, which the timing seems a bit odd. I don't know if it's just because that's how long it takes for appeals processes and stuff. I mean, honestly, I thought Rhys Webb's career was over anyway, so I think that pass, was it that pass or offload or whatever it was against Saracens, that was the end of his career.
Yes, you know, steroids don't make you do that, unfortunately.
No. Well, I mean, steroids do have been shown to reduce mental function. But also the other thing with human growth hormone, which I think a lot of people don't get, is all it does is it makes your muscles take on water. They don't actually have strengthen up. So you look really great, but it doesn't actually increase your strength, stamina, or anything like that. It's actually a pretty shit thing. So one of my professors in my undergraduate, was looking at the effect of human growth hormone and these sorts of things.
Is he just absolutely massive, like walking around campus?
Oh no, he is the exact opposite. The guy is called Glenn Sweeney. He is just an absolute most wonderful man you'll ever meet.
Kerry Sweeney's
he was showing in pictures, and he's showing us like pictures. And the only thing human growth hormone does is it helped fish get to the size they were going to be anyway a bit faster. It doesn't actually make them any bigger. It's just like it just helps you get to your potential quicker.
Interesting.
Which is great for bodybuilding, but not necessarily any good. So, kids, if you are thinking of taking human growth hormone, you're wasting your time. Just go on proper roids instead if you want to be strong. Of course, us at RAP do not condone any use of illegal drugs.
No, we do not. Thank you for that clarification.
Cardiff Central, on the other hand.
I just think it's a shame. I do. Like Ali says, it's been a bit of a mess and a bit of a fiasco. And I've always liked Reece Webb. I think he's had a great career. It's just a shame it's ended this way.
Two-time Test Lion,
Yeah.
199 games for Wales or something. Wales for Ospreys, 40 caps for Wales. You know, a fine career.
Probably unlucky in 2015 to have that injury, which basically meant he didn't get a World Cup.
Never
Like,
played
he
in the World
probably
Cup.
should have had a World Cup. He shouldn't have been last World Cup, and probably not 2019 either. But you know, that 2015, he was far and away one of Wales' best scrum halves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at that game, by the way. He was against Italy. Webb went down, Halfpenny went down.
The demon. We don't discuss that game.
No,
it was bad.
Indeed, it was. Okay, so yeah, that's the Reece Webb news. Now then, moving on to Gatland. Gatland's been barking in the media again. So Warren Gatland has now said he would love to be able to select Exeter centre Joe Hawkins, and he's now said that he's never been in favour of Welsh Rugby's cap rule. So what he actually said was, I'd love to have him involved, that's Hawkins. Despite what everyone says when there was a 60 cap rule, when it was Gatland's law, I was never in favour of it. It was something that was pushed hard by the regions in terms of having that implemented. Now it's down to 25 caps. And then he went on to say the union and the regions are finding it difficult financially, and there's only one team being punished for that rule, and that's us. You know, this was the guy who kept saying that he wanted all his players based in Wales to have his players available for the training camps, to have his players available throughout the entire campaign. And now he's saying, no, I was never in favour of it. It was nothing to do with me. It was all the regions. And now it's penalising Wales. What do you guys make of these comments? Because I just think Gatland's trying to have his cake here and eat it. And there's a bit of a blame game going on yet again by Gatland, isn't there? Or am I reading it wrong? What do you think?
I mean, I put a comment partially tongue in cheek, but I'm starting to think I believe it. So I mean, admit I didn't catch most of the game on the weekend, but of the bits I did see, it cut up to the coaching box, and Gatland looked like a man who wanted to be fired so he could take his severance pay. And I feel like a lot of the stuff he's doing now is he's just daring the WRU to sack him so he can just walk off into the sunset with a load of money and not have to worry, because he looks broken as a human. And all these comments, like, if he wanted to pick Joe Hawkins, he could have turned around and said, I'm picking him anyway. I just went and told the PRB to make the exception. The question is has the PRB been asked to make an exception? Supposedly they've done one for Jared Evans, even though he was never going to get picked, let's be honest, it's Gatland. He may want to make the Cardiff Blues play like the Ospreys, but let's be fair, even he's not going to pick Jared Evans to try and make him play like Dan Edwards.
No, that's right. What did you make of the comments, James?
He keeps doing this thing where he keeps deflecting from the main issues, is that Wales aren't very good right now. So it's Joe Hawkins this week. After the game, it was, we're not getting the 50-50 decisions.
It
reminds me a lot of Steve Diamond when he was at Sale a few years ago, who just kept going, we can't compete financially, and then calling like all journalists wankers and stuff like that. Like it just detracts from the main issues at hand. And in terms of Hawkins, right? So obviously he's played a lot of 12. So he started 14 out of 21 games for Exeter this year. 9 of those in the Premiership, 2 of those in Champions Cup, and 3 of those in the Prem Rugby Cup. He probably hasn't been as consistent as what he wanted to be in terms of what he played. He's played a lot, had some injury problems, but to say Joe Hawkins is a cure-all, essentially, for Wales's problems at 12
or 10,
they're not. Because what have we seen? He's not pulled up trees in the Premiership.
No.
He's
not first choice either, as you said.
He's not. Yeah, he's not out. He's not out.
He's just got injured.
He's not out and out first choice. He's had a season there. You know, as someone who sort of knows him or from the same area, Yeston will know sort of the people around him better. He spends a lot of time back in Wales. So he barely spends any time in Exeter. Thus is like his sort of injuries and time off. There are better performing 12s that can play for Wales currently. Right? Eddie James has probably had a better season individually than Joe Hawkins. So for Gatland to say, oh, all of a sudden I want to pick Joe Hawkins is just a distraction from the problems at hand. And there are receipts all around the internet to say that Gatland was in favour of the 25 or the cap law, right? Or it's been dubbed Gatland's law. And I can't remember if it was Steph Thomas or Ben James wrote a nice article saying he's not wrong in what he's saying in the actual content. What he's saying, he wants to be able to pick Joe Hawkins. No one else is captured by the law that is going to play for Wales. Aled Davies is not going to play for Wales. Jonah Holmes is not going to play for Wales. He's playing for London Scottish. So it's just another distraction piece.
In fairness, London Scottish is 2 divisions above, relatively, where Corey Hill was currently playing. So, I mean, he has a chance.
I just think it's a little bit disingenuous by Gatland, though, to say that Wales are being punished when the whole purpose of the cap law has always been to keep players in Wales. Why? To have direct access to those players throughout the entire campaign. So Team Wales, that's what that law was for. The regions don't really benefit from this 25 cap law. This is for Team Wales to keep their best players in Wales, to have full access to them, to have these players for an entire campaign. And now Gatland's turned around. And, you were right, James, in the past, he's been in favour of it. We can all dig up articles where he's talked about the desire to have full access to players and to have all those players in Wales. And now he's turning around saying he's being punished for it. I just find it a little bit disingenuous. And it is deflection, as you said. So, very curious comments by Gatland there. I don't think he'd be saying this stuff if Wales were winning, though, would he?
No, or even if Wales were playing well.
Yeah, he wouldn't be saying it then.
Even if we were playing really well and we lost because of a bullshit Curtly Beale last minute try, or if we were playing like England were, right, where we were in games consistently, we weren't making the opposition was scoring because they were slightly better, not because of stupid decision making. Right, we wouldn't be having this conversation. England aren't saying, do you know what, we need Jack Willis badly, because actually the players that they've chosen, Chandler Cunningham South, Sam Underhill, Tom Curry, right, these boys are playing well. It's just deflection.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And also, you're talking about like players who are playing well in their position, even similar style players. Like Ben Thomas is arguably one of the form 12s in the regions, but he's picked them at 10. And then you got Mason Grady, who's still learning his trade at 13, spent most of the season on the wing, picks him at 12, and then doesn't even use him like a 12. That's it. I mean, are we ready to move on to the game? So I can do my 20 minutes I saw. It summed up quite well.
Yeah, keep your powder dry for a minute. Yeah. It's just a little bit of news regarding the Under-20s World Championship that's going on. So, yesterday, a hat-trick by Scarlet centre Max Page proved to be in vain as Australia won the 5th place semi-final of the Under-20s World Championship with a 36-29 victory against Wales in Stellenbosch. So what does that mean for Wales? That means that Wales will now face South Africa in the battle for 7th position on Friday afternoon. Have any of you been watching the games or following this? I've only seen brief highlights on YouTube.
I watched most of the games.
Tell us about it then, James. Who's standing out? What are the positives from this campaign?
There's clear building blocks there. And I think that Richard Whiffen has got a good core group of players sort of coming through. I think the scrum is an issue, but I think comparing scrums at under-20s level is quite disingenuous. Because if you watch like the England-Ireland game, you've got Afolabi Fasogbon and Ashraf Okafor, destroying people, and that's probably not reflective on the players that there are. They're just, ridiculous monsters and ridiculous athletes. So, but you've got the likes of Jordan Morris from the Dragons and Pontypool playing really well. I expect to see him maybe feature for Dragons this year. I'd hope so.
Yeah, possibly.
Good carrier. Great, great in the loose. You've had sort of the emergence of Max Page has grown into his role. Took his tries really well. Rodri Lewis has shown up okay. We've sort of known what we've seen from him, though. Hugh Anderson, with his Dragons as well. Am I right in
That's right.
saying?
You are, yeah.
Yeah, he's played very well. Big fan of Aidan Boshoff at Bristol. Great name as well. Owen Conker, he's come out of it looking okay.
Another great name.
Yeah, he's sitting rightly behind Morgan Morse, but his time will come, I think. Kean Hire for the Ospreys has shown good potential. Josh Morse at Scarlet's shown up well. I mean, obviously, Morgan Morse has come out this very well, right? And he very well liked by World Rugby. Had a stormer against New Zealand, some good showings against Australia. I think Lucas De La Rua has not had his best tournament. Still a fine player, but for me, just hasn't shown up as well as he probably could have. I gotta say, I'm impressed by the Dragons boys a lot. Ryan Woodman's led the team really well. You expect him to be full senior rugby. I'd imagine in and around the Dragons team every week. And then, the young Cardiff backs who've obviously signed Steph Emmanuel, been really good. Louis Hennessy, he'll be something big. I feel like he needs to move away from Bath, though, if he really wants to sort of kick on. There's a good core group of players, and I like Richard Whiffen. I think Sam Hobbs. I think they've got a good setup there. Andy Lloyd down there. Richie Pugh, these Scott Snedden's in there as well. So you've got a good group of regional coaches and a dedicated coach in Richard Whiffen, who I think you've just got to manage these boys right. I think, that they've managed, if you look at that back row, for example, who've all had senior experience, right? They've managed that really well in having Woodman. I know he had his injury, having him in the under-20s, De La Rua in the under-20s, Morse in the under-20s. So they've been fine. They've probably been, it's about right. That 6th or 7th place or 7th place, whatever, is about right. I think England and France are clearly so far ahead of the curve, and rightly so.
As you would expect, yeah.
Yeah, I do think that I'd have to ask Big M. He'd probably know the under-18s a bit better than me. But the next group of players are probably the more are going to have the bigger impact. So the ones who are graduating this year into no longer under-20s, like Rodri Lewis, things like that, how are they going to replace that? How are they, so are they bringing in the next group of 17, 18-year-olds to sit in the squad for 2-3 years to kick on? But I don't think it's been an awful tournament by far. I think it's been, if you put it in relative to where Welsh rugby is at the minute, I'd say it's quite successful.
Okay, fair enough. Sounds like there's a lot of good young talent coming through, and pleasing to hear the Dragons boys are doing well. Okay.
Say one name that from bits I have seen is Johnny Green, who's currently at Quins.
Yeah.
He's
great player.
He's looking like a decent prospect.
I'm good friends with an analyst at Quins Academy. Play rugby with him. Speaks so highly about Johnny Green. So high. He will be like a Quins captain if he stays at Quins, like a Stefan Levis type player.
That's high praise.
I fully see that happening.
Okay, excellent. One to keep an eye on there. Right, let's move on to the action on Saturday. So we did finish Australia 36, Wales 28. Wales 7 and 9th successive defeat on the bounce as Australia wrapped up the series 2-0 with victory in an 8-try thriller in Melbourne. So that means Wales have now lost 9 tests on the bounce and are now just 1 loss away from equaling the nation's worst losing sequence of 10 games recorded between 2002 and 2003 under Steve Hansen. However, having said all that, I felt this was a better performance this week than the one we saw in the first test. And I think Wales can actually, despite the mistakes, and there was plenty of mistakes in this game and some really bad decisions, which I'll come on to later. I think there are some green shoots to take out of this performance, especially compared to the first test. Let's come to you first then, Harley. What did you make of it then? What's your rant?
I only watched the last 20 minutes of the first half. I was at Butlins with family and things, but I'll tell you and let me know if it's an unfair microcosm of the game, or if it's how it played out. So I look on. First thing I see is the scrum being looking like it's going forward, but it's because we've angled in and we've been pinged. Happens, right? Fine, not so worried about that. Anyway, something else happens. You can see, we get a penalty. Great score, driving more, really good driving ball try. Immediately, the cleaners can win it, catches the ball and restart. Cleaners nowhere near the breakdown in time. Right, and turnover, lose 3 points. That's unforgivable. Like you get, I don't know about you, James, but I mean, even in the low divisions I've played in, that your coach would be screaming at you for that sort of thing. Like absolutely useless. And I said then we saw another more try, and then the third opportunity I see. Try and play a nice line out move, didn't work, but keep the ball, fine. Nothing wrong with that. Get up to the line. And I'm thinking, I'm seeing set plays, I'm seeing all of our weakest carries coming in. Where's Mason Grady? Like Mason Grady's supposed to be that player who's cutting the line. Like if you're gonna have a 12 like Grady, you should be coming in at pace somewhere in that line. I see him on the wing when Cam Winnett's basically tried to do a miracle pass because he's got no other option than throw a miracle pass. And you're just like, is this attack actually being coached, or is it just a bunch of people who are making up calls when they start the game? Because it's just looking absolutely baffling. And the players look baffled at times. I don't get. I mean, I saw a couple of drop balls as well. I know you two mentioned that Cam Winnett didn't have the best of his games. From what I saw, I can believe that. But I mean,
in the first half, he stunk. But in the second half, to his credit, him and Tame Plumtree mind, they were both very bad in the first half. But in the second half, Winnett did recover well, as did Plumtree. But yeah, this was not a good game for Cam Winnett. And I would say he wasn't good against South Africa either. There's 2 really poor games he's having now. So I just wonder going forward if they stick Liam Williams at fullback. I just feel like Cam Winnett's been a little bit exposed in these past couple of tests. But go on. Sorry, continue.
I mean, what I would say with that is if you do that, the chances are you just wreck his confidence, and that's it. I think if you back, this is where Gatland needs to do his trademark, just back the player, and he'll get to 2 bad games in a whole, in his first full season of pro rugby. I wouldn't worry too much. I mean, fullbacks get targeted all the time, and he's only going to get better from it, and he's going to get more used to having that extra layer of pressure. So I'll build with that. Sounds like both of them had a good game. From what I saw, he was quite industrious. He was always in the picture, which is quite good.
Yeah.
Made the most meters for Wales. Looking at stats, which I'll be honest is kind of a depressing thing to say, considering he made 67 meters from 19 carries, which I'm guessing Joe Schmidt, much like with Razzie, I'm guessing they went for the more, and from what kicks I did see, they were going for a more shorter competitive kicking strategy, which probably explains why Winnett hasn't been making that many kicks, whereas from what I saw of the previous game, they were kicking a lot longer. Yeah, again, that has something to do with why Winnett had such a hard time. Yeah, but I said it just seems to be the same thing over and over again. You said you thought it was better, but for me, it was a lot of mistakes, really soft penalties. Just the attack, the basics of securing the ball just seemed everyone was like a few seconds off. And I think, we're talking off air saying how we're worried about the game coming up this week.
Yeah, we were. You are right. We were saying there were mistakes. The attack still isn't really clicking. Having said all that, though, for all the faults in Wales's game, I still felt this was a better performance than the first test, and I do actually think you can take some positives from it, especially individual performances. James, what did you make of the second test? Do you agree with me that there are actually some positives, or do you think?
Yeah, I do think there are positive. I think you take positives from any performance, right? I think at any sporting level, if you can't take performances from something, then you're in the wrong. You're in the wrong thing because you can't. having a consistent glass half empty, woe is me mindset isn't contributing to an environment that wants to win. So there are, like, take from the pack, Chris Chinza is definitely a lock.
He's done well, hasn't he? Yeah, he's been.
I think these two tests have been his best for Wales.
At lock, though.
At
not
lock,
in the back row.
Yeah. But I've always said lock.
I'd like to point out I've always said as more of a high work rate player, not a destructive carrier. When you're all shouting at me during the previous tournaments and things.
I think we can safely say Dewi Lake is captain going forward and first choice hooker.
Absolutely.
Easy.
Jack Morgan's great. David Jenkins, I'm sure, will be a fantastic player, but I think from a leadership point of view, just so much better, with Dewi Lake on the pitch. I think Rio Dyer, despite probably having a quieter series, is still that first choice winger.
Great finish first try.
Great finish for his try. I watched the first half and I'm watching the highlights back now as Harley was talking. And you're just thinking, like, it's one step forward, two steps back whenever Wales do something good, right? Yeah. So we'll score a try off a great driving maul, and as someone who's watched a lot of driving mauls for the past couple of seasons, right? You have to appreciate the art of a good driving maul and how effective a peel is, how effective shifting the point of contact, so you get momentum in your drive, especially if this trialed law where if you're told to use it, you have to use it, comes into fruition, having that momentum at the start. So, great in that respect. But we can't shy away from the fact is we still look stagnant in the backs. The centre combination, while better this week, and the stats will say Watkin had a better game than probably lets on. Still isn't working. I agree with Jamie in that Cam Willett has not had a good overall test series or outing for Wales. But I am sort of in agreement with Harley as we are kind of stuck with him now because you'll wreck his confidence. What I do want to say is, and I mentioned this on X this morning, I was listening to the Scrum 5 podcast and Gareth Rhys-Owen and James Hook made a great point in that there is a culture of losers in this squad at the minute. Right? And that's not to say they're all like bad humans and nerds. It's to say, actually, I'm a nerd as well, it's fine. It's to say that they are in environments where they're not winning. That's in both international and national structures, right? Cam Willett, I'll single him out, but he's only ever won 4 games of professional rugby. Okay. 8 of that 23 on the weekend have never won in a Wales jersey. I said on X, this is not me, and I genuinely mean this. This is not me saying pick more Ospreys, right? Because clearly, it's not genuinely not. As much as Luke Scully would sort out this bullshit,
that's what you're alluding to. Just be honest. You want more Ospreys in the team.
It's of course I do, but reality says it's not going to happen. But what reality also tells us is that this Ospreys team doesn't know when it's beaten, right? You look at Lions away, you look at Stormers, you look at Ulster at home, right? Times in which you could have rolled over and taken the loss, but they didn't, right? And that's the culture that needs to be instilled in this Wales team.
I'd like to say, in fairness, you can't have the same argument if we don't know when we don't roll over. Like we've very rarely been rolled over. The problem is we don't know how to win.
It's not winning.
It's still your problem. I'm just saying it's not.
You're right. Cardiff are halfway through that problem. Cardiff are halfway through that problem. Okay, but the Dragons and Scarlets this season, especially, but it is set. You have to take it at face value. Is the majority of the makeup of that squad comes from 3 teams who have won less than 12 games in the season? Is it something like that?
Well, it's less than whatever the Ospreys have won this season.
And then So it's really, you can't ignore it. You have to, because if we're saying that club form translates into international form, right? You have to take the mindset and the culture you bring as well. So if you're coming from a losing culture, unfortunately, it's going to rub off because you're not you have to learn how to win again. And the other thing is that Gatland has firmly molded himself now as a coach who doesn't reward form. Because we said it last week, we go back to the England game, right? Steve Borthwick has got players playing now who are in form, who have played so well for their clubs. Ollie Slightholme, Tommy Freeman, Chandler Cunningham South, Finn Baxter. You can probably put Finn Smith, Marcus Smith in that as well, right? And look at the result. He's not getting the results, right? They're not quite there, but you can see what he's doing. You can see that by rewarding form, he is building a platform for the future. Whereas we have gone back to safety blankies in Corey Hill, Liam Williams. As good as Liam Williams is, he's still 33. Right? I still see calls for Jake Ball to be called up, right? Jake Ball's a fine player. But what are we going to learn by calling Jake Ball up? What do we learn by having Gareth Davies on this tour and not playing? I look at that game on Friday now. For me, the perfect scrum half to sit on the bench, and even if he only gets 7 minutes, right, was Ruben Morgan-Williams, because he will learn more from that than how at 70 cap Gareth Davies sat on the bench in front of Kieran Hardy, behind Kieran Hardy, right? This is my issue with Gatland now. I'm over the rugby, right? I can take losing, I can take playing shit. All teams go through shit, right? England went through it in 2011, some into 2015, right? We went through peaks and troughs. We went 2016, 2017 Wales, god awful. But what I can't take is mismanagement of a good core group of Welsh players who are not playing to their potential because they're not being picked in the right positions, or they're not being picked at all in favour of players who have played at a lower standard of rugby inconsistently.
I think going back to the game, I do take your point in what you're saying, but I think going back to the game, what did annoy me, and it was the same in the first test as well, we give away so many easy points, don't we, through errors. I think what did really piss me off was every time Wales got back into the game, they'd instantly give away a penalty, and then they'd be on the back foot and they'd be behind again. So I think it was twice from the kickoffs after we scored, we gave away penalties, and then Australia scored. And that's just schoolboy stuff, isn't it? And the mistakes and errors from individuals, like Liam Williams, for example, right? Let's talk about Liam Williams, because I don't think he had a good game at all in this test. I know he scored a try, but his individual errors cost Wales big time. So the first one is when he had that scuffle with their number 8, Charlie Cole. He didn't need to get involved. Didn't need to have that scuffle, but he did. What happens? Australia get the penalty. 2 minutes later, Australia score from that. And then he tries to keep the ball in. And we all saw what happened with that Australian winger. Was it, what do you pronounce his name? Dagunu, was it? Dagunu, I think it's...
Daganu, I think it
Daganu. He comes rushing. He literally just passes the ball into him, trying to keep it in from play. I mean, on the one hand, it's really good chase from the winger. Like, you didn't expect him to be there. But then I'm thinking, why is Liam Williams trying to keep that ball in, right? Because it wasn't like there was 2 minutes left on the clock. He's trying to keep the ball in play to keep the counter-attack going. The kick only went to the 10-metre line in Wales's half. There was absolutely no need to try and keep that ball in. You should just let it go. It's just a needless error, isn't it? Those 2 errors really cost Wales. The scrum did go better. The scrum was better and the set piece was better. Although it has to be said, when Darryl Lake went off and Evan Lloyd come on, we had those lineouts, 2 poor throws. It has to be said. I am going to have to blame Evan Lloyd, because I know a lot of people had a pop at Corey Hill for dropping that that throw. And to be honest, I really don't want to be defending Corey Hill. Trust me, I don't. But it was not a good throw in from Evan Lloyd. And even Sam Warburton said, that's not a good throw. It's too low. It's got to get up higher. And then the second throw in was just so easily read, and it's like, it kills momentum. But the scrum did go better. And I want to put a word out as well for Archie Griffin, because I think he has been one of the positives on this tour. He put in another fantastic shift. But the concern is, when he goes back to Bath, how much game time is he going to get?
Yeah.
To add to that issue of he's playing players out of position that don't play there for their clubs. And then you got Griffin there. He's got Dutoit ahead of him and he's got Will Stewart ahead of him. So you're thinking, well, how much game time is he going to get you? There's all these issues adding up, and it's just really difficult to see how he's going to get the game time and development he needs at Bath. It would be better if he was actually at a Welsh region. He's playing week in, week out. We can develop. I know Bath is a good environment. I know they got a good coach now. They've turned things around, but he needs to be playing week in, week out. So I think for me, it's the errors and the individual mistakes, the set piece let us down. Momentum killers. There was too many momentum killers on Saturday, I thought, because they were there to be beaten again. This is a game that Wales could have and should have won. But yet again, they let it slip. And it comes back to losing, doesn't it? We all know winning is a habit, but so is losing. And take it from me, as a Dragon supporter, right? When you're stuck in a losing rut, it's very, very hard to break out of. And I feel the players are in that losing rut now.
Yeah, I put out a thing. I put out a squad on the forums today of what I think will start against Queensland Reds, right? How many of these players consistently start for their clubs? Okay, just have a think. So you got Kemsley Mathias, Evan Lloyd, Harry O'Connor. This is just the squad I think now, okay?
So straight away, front row, the props start.
The props start.
Evan Lloyd is probably a 50-50 toss-up in second Lloyd.
He's second choice at the minute at Cardiff because Liam Bell's been captain. I'd also argue Kemsley Mathias, does he always start?
98% of the times it's usually injury or Wales rest.
Okay,
sometimes they'll chuck Wyn Jones in, but usually they put Wyn Jones on the bench.
Ben Carter, Matthew Screech. Yeah.
Same
Plumtree when he's fit. Yeah. James Botham when he's fit. Yeah. Mackenzie Martin, I couldn't possibly say he's a starter from last season, right?
The games he was usually used more as an impact player off the bench, to be honest, because we typically would have Botham at 8, or ideally we'd have Faletau.
Coming back to my point, he doesn't start.
No.
Then go into the backs. Kieran Hardy didn't start at all. Jacob Beetham doesn't start. Regan Grace has only played 2 games of rugby union. Eddie James.
And both friendlies.
Yeah, he started.
Eddie James started.
Nick Tompkins, Rio Dyer, definitely starts the Dragons. Josh Hathaway doesn't, only towards the back end of a season in which they lost, their star player to the NFL.
I don't think he played at fullback at all, actually, for Gloucester. Or if he did, it was Premier Cup or something.
Just going back to Mackenzie Martin, he started 9 games this year.
I think that was more. I think that was more because of injuries to Tamani and Seb and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway,
going on to the bench, Evan Daniel definitely doesn't start,
but he does bench a lot, so that's fine.
Corey Domachowski, starts. Dylan Lewis definitely doesn't start for Quins.
Yep.
Corey Hill, he's a part-time accountant and debt collector. Chris Chinzer has been injured. Gareth Davis, he starts. Costello starts, and Cam Winnett starts, right? But consistently, right? I think that's close to the squad we're going to put out, right? Because Gatlin said that everyone on this tour. Well, I know we're going on to Queensland now, but Gatlin said everyone who's touring is going to get a game, right? And that's been a Gatlin thing for years and years and years. I go back to the 2013 Lions tour. So the first thing he said to the players is, in the first 3 games, you're all going to get a start. That's supposedly our second choice 15 or 23. How much confidence does that fill you with?
Not really, no. Rio
mean,
could
if you
do with a
said this-
rest, by the way. You talk about Rio Tired.
Yeah.
Nobody has played more games or more minutes for Wales in the past year than Rio. So in an ideal world, you
Yeah, but
should
he's
give
a
him a
winger,
rest
it's
for this
fine.
game.
Who plays
Yeah,
then?
but come on. Well, you could have Hathaway and Grace there, couldn't you? But then I
Could
don't
have
know.
Hathaway and
who the
Grace,
fuck-
but then you start Cam Winnett, who's played a lot this year, or you play
You'd
Liam
have to
Williams
start-
in a pointless game against Queensland Reds.
Or you'd have to start Beetham at 15 and start Costello, and you'd move Beetham in at 10. But then that ruins the point of him
That
wanting
contradicts
minutes,
all of
Beetham
Gatland's
into 10.
points.
Yeah,
So
but also, I thought Hathaway had a hand injury. Is it not that bad?
he said he knocked. It was an elbow knock.
Okay.
I think it was a tendon thing in his elbow. It didn't sound bad, otherwise they would have sent him home.
I
So
might not have just bothered and just kept him in for another week.
for me, it just doesn't fill me with confidence. And that's a team containing half an Osprey. All right. And that's not me being biased because Kieran Hardy just hasn't put on a jersey yet. But that team screams 40 points to 7 against the Chiefs, which Jamie has alluded to on Twitter. On
And
X,
off
sorry. And
I'm
off
getting
air.
Chiefs vibes. I am getting Chiefs vibes.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong, but I'm getting serious Chiefs vibes about this game. The mass changes, the losing streak. This was all happening when Gatland toured New Zealand with Wales. I've got a really bad feeling about this. I
My
will not
only
be
hope
surprised at all.
Is all those great Reds players who were playing for Australia are being kept in the Australia camp, ready for the Rugby Championship?
They're going to be chopping at the bit,
they're
the Reds, though,
they're
aren't they?
down to a second, yeah.
They're going to be chopping at the bit because it's not often they get to play an international side, isn't it? So this is a big moment for them. This is a really big occasion for the players, and for the club and everyone involved. They're going to be chopping at the bit to take on a Wales team that desperately lacking in confidence.
It's
and can't break a
hilarious
losing streak.
that. Do you remember when Wales lost to Japan in 2013?
Yes.
So this is obviously during a Lions year.
Mm.
And I'm going to do a mini good player very quickly because this was considered a scratch team, right? So 2030, you got to put into context of 2013 now. So Liam Williams at the Scarlets was good, up and coming.
Yeah,
Harry
good.
Robinson at Blues was a player. Owen Williams at the Blues. Jonathan Spratt,
Jonathan Spratt, good God, that's a blast from the past.
6 out of 10 every week. Tom Pridey.
Biggest Wales player ever.
Yeah, Tom Pridey. Dan Bigger, so obviously was a great player. Was obviously
The
not
only one not to get. that
not
good Wales
considered
thing,
for the
not to-
Lions tour that year. Lloyd Williams at the Blues, fine.
Good player.
Reece Gill
Was
was a player.
club legend.
Emir Phillips,
That's
obviously, now at Scarlets. Scott Andrews, right? Bradley Davis, who was captain.
Good player.
The creeping
saying it.
spectre of Lou Reed. James King, Andreas Pretorius,
Oh gosh, remember him?
yeah, and Josh Navidi. So,
Great player.
yeah. Was he at the time, though?
Yeah.
He was dropped though,
Just
wasn't he?
say- no
Didn't
one
play
saw
for
his-
Wales for
no
a
one-
long time after that.
No,
game.
Then
no,
you-
you just didn't see his potential.
Then you got Scott Baldwin, Rodri Jones, Craig Mitchell, who was at Exeter at this point, Andrew Coombs, Dan Baker, now playing for Pontardawe RFC, Tavis Noyle, Reece Patchell, and David Howells. That was a scratch team, right? And if you look at the players who are in there now, or if you look at the players who we know went on to have great careers in a Wales jersey, yeah? So Liam Williams, obviously, Test Lion. Dan Bigger, A Lion, not Test Lion, sorry. Bradley Davis went to have a great Wales career. Josh Navidi, Scott Baldwin, right? Patchell. You can see in these scratch squads sometimes the players who are going to go make it big. If I go back to that squad I read out, how many of them young players are going to go on and have amazing Wales careers? Who there? Yeah, Costello. Yeah, probably will have a long
could see
career in a Wales
Beetham.
jersey.
Not as a 10, but I could see Beetham.
But your contradiction what Gatland said. Matthew Screech is 31. He's not going to go have a long career in a Wales jersey.
Nope.
Ben Carter might, but there's so much second row talent coming through.
Yeah.
is Harry O'Connor, Evan Lloyd, Kemsey Mathias going to have a long Wales career?
This is the problem, isn't it? This is the problem, I think.
But I think
you look at our Wales squad.
Lake's number 2.
You look at the Wales squad and you just think, how many of these players are going to be top end players? Like, I have got my doubts. I know they're young and they're inexperienced. I have got my doubts about Kemsey Mathias. Definitely got my doubts about Evan Lloyd, and I got my doubts about Harry O'Connor. Are these guys going to be top end international players? At the moment, I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah. And this is my issue going into this game on Friday. I should be going into this game on Friday, right, knowing that we're going to smash a Queensland Reds team that have lost 13 players to the Australia team, right? But I don't feel that way. I genuinely don't. Because there is, apart from the driving maul, there is nothing that tells me we are going to carve through a team. There is nothing.
Well, I know you said you're fine and you're done with the rugby discussion, but I'm not quite, because it's a point that you've brought up, I've brought up, Josh Gardner's posted on Twitter, because I'm still going to keep going at Twitter. Gatland is trying to get this team to play like the Ospreys. He is playing peak booth ball.
I didn't want to mention it.
It's like a proper. Let's face it. That's what it is, which makes the decision not to pick Ospreys players more baffling. Because for a start, you're not teaching players new game plans and new styles of play. For a start, like I can understand. All right, maybe you want to bring in. You might want to look at a Josh Hathaway as opposed to a Luke Morgan who is reaching the tail end of his career. Saying the people on the you've said on the Ospreys pod about what part of why you want to make sure you sign some tardy backs. But it still doesn't explain why there aren't young players who should be like James Ratty should be on there. He should be in that squad over Corey Hill a million times over. One, he's a versatile player. You could play him at 6'8" block. Decent ball carrier. He's aggressive. He's going to give you that physicality. Fantastic work rate. I still say he's a huge loss to Cardiff this season because we were just missing that sort of dog work. You just need those sort of players. I said Ruben Morgan-Williams, for me, being the second, has given some of the best performances of a 9 in Wales, other than Tom Williams doing Tom Williams just bullshit X Factor stuff, which never works for Wales or hardly ever anyway, so it's irrelevant. But then, and then you're like, I want this team to do, and he was coming in saying, I picked Ben Thomas because it's a 12 who can play a bit. He gets his 12 to pass a lot. No matter how direct he says he wants to play, he's got his 12 passing the ball and stepping it first to receive all the time. So why are you not picking the 12 who does that all the time, Ben Thomas? Why are you making him a makeshift 10? Like, pick 10. I know we're really struggling for 10 talent in Wales, but just if you want to give Ben Thomas some time at 10, give him 20 minutes at the end of the game, start Costello, Ben Thomas, see if something works. And if it doesn't, fine, scratch it. But he had a chance this tour to actually try something different. And what he's done is he's done what he's always done, but much, much worse. And it's just really frustrating. For the bits I admit I haven't seen the whole game, but from the bits I've seen, and from the bits I saw in the Six Nations and the South Africa game, it's the same shit he's always done, which worked when he had those certain players. But teams are figuring out, people are expecting it now. People have gone for different kicking games and all sorts to nullify that. And it's just looking like he's not doing anything. The set piece doesn't seem to know what it's doing. It's fair play. Humphrey's got this, giving us the fantastic driving ball, but we don't have the reliability of the lineouts for whatever reason. Yes, sometimes it's hookers throw in. I mean, remember with Evan Lloyd, you're saying you're a bit worried about. He hasn't had 12 months as a hooker yet, which is partly an issue with the coaches selecting him, frankly, more than anything. But he needs that time to actually get used to his craft. Remember what Derry Lake was like when he first came through, and
please don't remind me.
But look at Derry Lake now. You've got to give these players the coaching, and which is then brings us on to the biggest problem in Wales is. I think we've got collectively, apart from a couple of key individuals, we've got some of the worst fucking coaching of any of the Tier 1 nations.
You mentioned Ben Thomas there. I think he's done well at 10. I think the Cardiff half-backs, in fairness, Bevan and Thomas have gone well. But with Ben Thomas at 10, it just feels like a stopgap to me. It doesn't feel like this is going to be a long-term option going forward. And I think what we need and which hasn't happened yet. We need someone to grab that 10 jersey by the scruff of the neck. And that just hasn't happened since Bigger. You know, we need either Costello to do it, or Ben Thomas, or somebody else just to come through and really grab that, nail down that 10 jersey. It just doesn't look like it's happening at the moment.
But you're never going to get it with Ben Thomas. It's simple as that, because he's not going to be playing 10 week in, week out.
And that's the problem, isn't it?
Because Jockey wants him as a 12, because he wants a ball playing 12 who can carry a bit, which is what Ben Thomas is.
Mm.
So pick. I mean, unless Gatland's got all his hopes on Sheedy somehow becoming the next Dan Carter this next season with Cardiff, I don't switch. You know, I mean, he does have to get through De Beer, who I think. One thing this tour has told me, though, is Jockey, De Beer, and Ben Thomas need to have a sit down and have a grown-up discussion about who takes the kicks for Cardiff next season. Because Ben Thomas, and even when everyone's been saying, "Oh, the goal kicking's been shit," he hasn't missed one as far as I know.
No, he did. He did miss one in the second test. It was pretty straightforward one, but on the whole, it's been pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, compared to some of the shocking efforts in the other games, like give him the kicking. But that's me thinking I'm done with Wales now. I just want Cardiff doing well. I'm just hoping all the players come back in peace. I know James has said the same thing in the past about the Ospreys.
It is interesting.
About Cardiff players. He wants all the Cardiff squad to be in with Wales all the time.
It is an interesting point, though, isn't it? Sorry, just to talk about Ben Thomas there. It's like when you got Sheedy to be ahead of you, you're not going to be playing 10 regular, are you? You know, so I think there does need to be a conversation with the Cardiff coaches and the Wales management, actually, because if Warren Gatland, this is what he wants to do, have Ben Thomas as his 10 going forward, there needs to be some sort of conversation and a mutual understanding of where he wants Ben Thomas to be playing at club level. But, Jockey is perfectly entitled to turn around and say, well, no, actually, he's my player and I want him at 12. So it'll be interesting to find out what happens there next season. I just want to give a quick shout as well to James Botham for not following the narrative and actually speaking the truth, which is what I love hearing players do. So it's very easy at the moment now. I see a lot of it on social media. Gatland as well is pushing this narrative. We're a young team. We're in transition. This is what Rob Page was doing, the Welsh Football Manager. Remember? He was always saying we're in transition. He got mocked for it. But that's the narrative. Welsh Rugby Facebook now is full of comments. You look at the comment section on Wales Online or any of it. I try not to look, but sometimes I do dip my toe in, mainly for a laugh. But you look at the comment section and it's all, we're a young team. Give him time. Gatland knows what he's doing. Constantly pushing this narrative like a politician, pushing the message. I love what James Botham said on the weekend. He said, everyone talks about us being a young team. That's not an excuse now. This isn't national rugby. What a great attitude to have, because he could have easily come out and said, yeah, we're a young team. We'll take the learnings from it. We'll get better. But I really love that attitude from both of them to say, actually, no, age is not an excuse. This is international rugby and it's not good enough. So, shout out to both of them because well said. It's good to hear players to have that attitude.
Great player. Really like him as a player.
Had a really good game, man.
Feels... Unfortunately for both of them, like Ben Thomas is a stopgap in that jersey, unfortunately.
I don't know. See, I see him as a very important squad player.
I see him as an important squad player, but I don't think he'll ever be a consistent starter at 7.
Oh, no, I don't think so either. Well, but he's definitely a squad player
as well. But I think that's going to be the problem, is he's going to be that Josh Navidi. He's a bit too versatile and won't necessarily nail down one jersey or another. I think he's not an out-and-out jackal threat enough. Because he's a fantastic workhorse. He make like that Josh Navidi style 6 or 8, depending on where you pack him down in the scrum. I said when the team came out, I quite like both of them at 6.
To bring my last point, once again, I think I've been proven right in this tour, is Tommy Raffel has been unbelievably quiet.
Very quiet tour. He didn't. I don't think he made it. Did he make a turnover in this game?
No.
Might have been one, or he didn't, did he?
One, no. Maybe.
One, yeah.
I've said this consistently. As fine a player as Tommy Raffel is, he's got the Premiership tax on him, right? In that, because he plays in the Premiership, a league with a high rate of turnover, he gets lauded with, damned with fate praise, essentially.
But he's a good player.
He's a great player. But what is he? As I've said on multiple occasions, what is he offering other than that jackal threat? And when that jackal threat is nullified, what does he offer? That's where Jim Botham is better for me.
And we keep having this conversation. You've got to look at who he's in a pack with in Leicester. He's in a pack with lots of big ball carriers. He's in with lots of very heavy duty tacklers who can get players down. So he's got the opportunity to get over the ball. Whereas, like when you look at a lot of let's say the James Botham turnovers, because Cardiff don't actually make that many dominant shots, Cardiff's turnovers tend to be very quick. It's usually from when wingers made the break, you take them down and you get over very quickly. I'll be honest, a lot of them are very 50-50. Like you can easily ping the defending side there for a lot of them, but we're getting away with it and enjoying it. I mean, look at the stats. So just compared to both 6-7 meters with 19 carries. Tommy Reffel made 12 meters with 7. I mean, that could just be where their positions are on the field. But fair enough. James Botham 12 tackles, 1 miss, but he also made an offload. He also made an offload contribution. Tommy Reffel 17 for 2. So a couple more tackles. So maybe that's part of the issue as well, as they know Tommy Reffel is our only turnover carrier, so they kept me straight into him. You saw New Zealand doing similar things, and they would target Itoje to stop him disrupting.
I just don't see what he's bringing on this tour.
I agree. I think he's potentially a luxury we can't afford. Whereas like Jack Morgan may not be as good over the ball. He's still very good over the ball, but he's not as good as Tommy Reffel. But he's a much more destructive tackler. His tackle selection is just always fantastic. And he gives you the carrying as well.
Yeah, I'd rather lose.
Gives you more.
I'd rather lose that breakdown nous, that proper breakdown nous, because it doesn't really need to exist in this modern game. We're not in a Sam Warburton world now, or we're not in a McCall world where we need an out-and-out jackler. Unless that's what you thrive off as a team and that's your identity, is you need an out-and-out jackler. I think that having someone like Jack Morgan, where, all right, he's still an effective breakdown threat, maybe not as much as Rafael, but he offers more in the carry, he offers more in the tackle. Same with Jim Botham, maybe not to the the higher standard of Jack Morgan. But that's where we are. Jamie's favourite phrase, that's where we are.
We are where we are, and we have badly missed Jack Morgan on this tour. I think that's one of the learnings I've taken away from it.
I agree.
Yeah, disappointed with Rafael. I think he's a fantastic player, but this has not been a particularly good tour for him. Okay, so moving on then. A question for you two. What are the learnings from this tour? What have we learned about Wales on this tour so far? So I'll kickstart just a couple. Wales' driving line-out is a very effective weapon. I mean, that's one thing we found out. Well,
I'd say we already knew that.
Did we? I think. I'm not sure. I'm not seeing.
I didn't think we knew it.
No, not to this effect, mind. And I think that's something we need to build upon.
Just got to look at where all our tries have been against a lot of teams. They've been more tries. Like I've been in a position that our driving line out has been great when we can get it to work. The issue's been our line out, which is still an issue. I thought Archie Griffin finding the tournament. I think he's showing he's definitely got the goods. As we discussed earlier, though, he needs to go somewhere to get game time. And I'll be honest, I think the last place he needs to go is the Welsh region, other than maybe the Ospreys. If he went to the Ospreys,
he needs to go somewhere for week in, week out.
I think if he went to somewhere like for the Ospreys, say Tom Beaufort's decided he's going on. I think Ospreys could do worse than get Archie Griffin in.
Well, they got the best pack, so we'd have to go there with you. It'd be no good him going to the Dragons.
It's not even that he's got the best pack. I think they've got the best scrum coach. They've got the person who's going to make him the best he can possibly be.
But they have got the best pack as well. They have got the strongest pack.
It comes hand in hand. Having one of the best forward coaches and a head coach who is very good on forward play.
Stop, honestly, making me blush.
James, what have we learned about Wales, do you think, on this tournament?
I think we've learnt that Dewi Lake is our overall captain going forward.
Yeah.
I think we've learnt that there will be, I think we're a lot more stocked at lock now with Chinza, Beard, Jenkins, Rowlands, that core four.
Yeah.
And Carter, I'd say, is
maybe Carter, but he hasn't played enough for me to say he's a core 5. If he'd have played one of the tests, I would have said yes.
That's a fair point.
Because he hasn't. I can't say he has. I think then we've learned that Ben Thomas can play 10, not whether he should.
Yeah, it's a stopgap for me. That's why I said earlier. It feels like a stopgap.
I think that we've learned that this centre combination
Isn't
work.
working. Yes.
I think that we've learned that as fine a player as Owen Watkin is, I can't see him staying in a Wales jersey much longer.
Right, can I ask you about this? Because I know as an Osprey, a very biased Osprey, I want to give you an honest answer. Do you think he's international standard, Owen Watkin?
Yeah, absolutely.
You do? Because I'm starting to doubt it now. As much as I like Owen Watkin, I'm starting to doubt whether he is a 10, 13. Is he better at 12?
He's not a test 13. He's not a 13. He's a 12. He has never been a 13. He's only played 13 because our other 12 can't play. It's different. Playing club level 13 is very different to playing test level 13. Right? You can get away with it. Ospreys chop and change where their centres stand, right? And the way Owen Watkin plays as a centre for the Ospreys, he's very much a defensive leader. So this is going to be very rugby nerdy now. So say you have a breakdown here for audio listeners, you can't say. So breakdowns in the middle now. Realistically, you want your centres either side of that breakdown, which is what Owen Watkin does very well. He leads the defence really, really well, right? He's basically having an affair with Mark Jones. He's, that's how important he is to the Ospreys in that. If you go from 2017 to 2019, Owen Watkin, right? He was fucking ace. He was doing everything that Eddie James was doing, but better. He had a sick offloading game. He crashed the ball well, and he was a big part of Gatland's plan. Now, injuries have railroaded that, absolutely. But he's now been asked to play in a system that isn't getting the best out of Owen Watkin. So, where does that lead us? He's now, for me, the scapegoat of that team. In that, if the backline doesn't perform, we say, well, Owen Watkin's not getting it. Owen Watkin rarely gets the ball. So he can't do anything with it. And yes, he doesn't help himself by putting aimless kicks in and things like that. And he's not probably had his best tour. But to say he's not an international standard rugby player is wrong for me.
That's me playing devil's advocate, by the way.
No.
I have got my doubts. The thing is, how I feel about Owen Watkin, I know I do rate him as a player, but he's solid defensively. But I just don't know. In a Wales shirt, I don't really know what else he offers.
But what's Mason Grady offering? But Harley will say, I know Harley will absolutely say, is we're not giving him clean ball. We're not giving him the platform to succeed. It's exactly the same as Owen Watkin.
Actually,
but he will get dropped, won't he?
I was going to say Owen Watkin made 19 metres from 5 carries. Mason Grady only made 18 metres from 8. And Grady did make 3 passes, but he's in 12. He should be.
Yeah, he's obviously going to pass the ball more.
But he's in the wrong. But I think both, we've managed to come up with a system which makes neither centre look good. Mm-hmm. And I've never seen an attacking system or defence system which makes both centres look really bad.
Yeah.
And
is he going to stick with this then?
No, I don't think he will. Joe Roberts is the future of the 13 jersey for me.
Eddie James?
He's not 13, he's a 12.
But what about Eddie James or Ben Thomas?
Ben Thomas, right. We need to get, as people who put ourselves out there in the media, right? We need to get out of this habit of, but Ben Thomas is a 12. Gatland's not going to play Ben Thomas as a 12. He's not going to play Mason Grady as a 13 unless he has to, right? The going forward, he wants a team built around Mason Grady at 12 and ideally one of Costello, Thomas or Beetham at 10, unless a Dan Bigger emerges from the shadows.
Well, I mean,
is what you.
I mean, it is a Dan.
Yeah, that's what he wants to build his side around. There's power, there's pace, there's running ability, right? That's what he wants to build his team around. If he could, he would make Gareth Davis 10 years younger because that's exactly what he wants. He loves Gareth Davis. But he can't. And he, that's where we are in terms of that. What we need so Eddie James can come in. Yes, Eddie James will probably slot in at 12 every now and then. Joe Roberts is the future of the 13 jersey. It fucking pains me to say that, right? As an Ospreys fan, right? Because the kid's quality. The kid is really good.
He is Foxy reincarnated.
He's mustard, right? So so Watkin, unfortunately, is a stopgap at the minute. And I think he probably knows that as well. Watkin, right, he's started 99 out of 113 games for the Ospreys in his career. That spans from 2015 to 2024. It's 88% starter rate. That's how important he is to any Ospreys team, and he's outlasted coaches.
But no one's doubting that. We all know he's an important player for the Ospreys. But in a Wales jersey,
in a Wales jersey, he's 52% starter rate, right?
And that's heavily skewed the last couple of seasons.
That's heavily skewed the last couple of games. Actually, it is that skews it because he's generally been a bench player for the for Wales. Who, if there's an injury or they just need to tighten up the game, let's bring on Owen Watkin in the 22 or the 23 jersey to just have stability. To say Owen Watkin now is going to be your Foxy type 13, which we know Gatland wants to play a 2012 style game in a world that's 12 years later, right? So he wants Watkin to play like Jonathan Davis did, but he can't. So he is international standard. I absolutely think he's international standard, but I think he's in a system that doesn't get the best out of it.
Okay, it's a good debate to have, isn't there? Something needs to change though in the centres because this partnership. I know it's very early days, but it's just not working for me at all. You're talking about the centres there, and now Owen could have been the future of Wales, and at one time I thought he would be, because he'd be a great option for Wales. He's a footballer as well, but it's just injury that held him back.
He is a footballer. That's the problem.
He is the person who I want the Ospreys to sign. And me and Robbie have said this: is if I could take anyone, and Owen would be perfect for the Ospreys.
Very talented player. He should have been the future of this Wales team. But like I said, for various reasons, I don't think it helps he plays for the Dragons, if I'm being brutally honest, and injuries have held him back. I think you play for Cardiff Ospreys, I think he'd probably be in the national setup now. But, it is what it is. Let's look ahead to Friday then. This Queensland Reagan. Just one more question to ask about it, right? Because of the losing streak that Wales are on, and we are stuck in this rut now, does Friday become a must-win at all costs? Do we have to win this game? I know that the narrative you should win every game. I get that. But what I'm saying is now, does this game become far more important now because we're on this losing streak than it was before? Or do we just say, well, it's only a club game, a friendly, we could just write it off wherever happens and give opportunities to people? Or does it become about more than that? Does it become about the result now, this game? How important is it?
The games that were about the result were the two that we just lost. And Gatland didn't pick teams to win it. Despite what he says, he picked experimental teams. And it looks like he's just going to give everyone a run out for this game. So, whether or not we should be winning this game is irrelevant. The fact is, Gatland's already pegged it as he doesn't care. And he's looked, and he's basically decided this year is going to be a write-off. And I imagine the autumn's going to be much the same because the World Cup draw isn't happening until the season after. And also, remember now, everyone's talking about leaving top 10. Top 10's irrelevant. Top 10's always been irrelevant. It was top 8 before to get into the, to be in the top ranks of the World Cup draw. Now it's top 12 because there's going to be 6 pools. So as long as you're in the top 12, you're not going to have 2. You're only going to have one other top team with you. And that'll be enough to get into a round of 16. So Gatland's seen this as a free pass. Whether or not that's right is a completely different argument.
Okay. James? So any other thoughts on that, or what he's saying?
Firstly, why are we playing a warm-up game as the third game of the tour?
It should have been before then, shouldn't it?
Should have been.
Yeah.
I know Super Rugby season and all this politics, right? But the fact of the matter is we shouldn't be playing it, really. At the end of one of the longest seasons known to man, you're asking your players to go through a lot more in a nothing game against 12 people in Queensland. I just what we're going to see in an uncapped game. I'm just struggling to see value in the game the losing streak is what it is. I will say you can't count if we lose against Queensland, you can't count it as a 10 on the bounce because the Barbarians game is in there.
That's right. Yeah,
we won that, so it would, the narrative. It would be 9 test games we've lost in a row.
Yes, that's right. Important context. That
it is important context.
Yeah.
I don't, look. There is a distinct possibility we lose, but I don't think it will happen. I think we still will win. Queensland, unless Australia turn around tomorrow and give their Queensland players back, I think we will win. It's what we look like when we do it is are we going to play? Are we going to finally see what Alex King is employed for? Are we going to see why we brought in the likes of Regan Grace, Josh Hathaway, players who are deemed to be exciting? So, I'm over it. I genuinely am over it. Like, was it Friday, 10:45 our time?
Yeah, it's live on Sky, isn't it? I think it's like 10:45, 11.
But
sorry, go on.
Go on. Who's going to watch it?
Me.
Everyone's in work.
No, I'm working from home, so I am going to watch it. I'm going to have it on one laptop. I'm working on the other. No, I am. I've got to multitask.
Wait to announce that to you, boss.
Yeah.
No, it's called multitasking. It's like when you listen to the radio, I'll have it on one laptop and I'll be working on the other. I'm very good at multitasking. I definitely will be watching it. I'm looking forward to seeing Regan Grace. That's the one thing I'm really looking forward to, because there's so much hype about this guy. I don't follow rugby league. I appreciate how good he was in that, but that's a different sport. And I want to know if this guy is living up to the hype. I'm really excited to see how he goes. But other than that, am I looking forward to this game? No. Intrigued, I'd probably say. But I am keen to see how Regan Grace gets on, to be honest.
I'm not interested in it because there's going to be none of my bloody players in it.
Oh, boo bloody who. Look, as a Dragons fan, there were times where we didn't have any players, and sometimes we have just one, to Lupe Falato. Deal with it. It's what it is.
Did you remember that one really weird game under Pivac when all but one of the pack were Dragons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a weird...
That was Argentina, wasn't it?
Was it Argentina?
Canada. It might have been Canada.
It might have been Canada, yeah.
Yeah, because it was Screech's debut.
Yeah, but it's definitely... No, I was Argentina. He made his debut against Argentina, didn't he? It was Carter that made his debut against Canada. Yeah, stranger things have happened, but there have been times where we've had no players or just one. Well, we had one on the weekend, didn't we? Rio Dyer, that was it. So, it just is what it is. Final thought for you then, gents. At the moment now, the narrative is that this is a young team rebuilding, etc. The Welsh rugby public at the moment are buying into that message, especially when you look at, the hardcore fans aren't.
Yeah.
But when you go on Facebook, I know social media is not truly reflective, but you get my drift. A lot of people, I would say at the moment, are more on social media on Gatland's side of the message about young developing, giving him a chance. I've seen a lot of these comments. I've had a couple of my mentions on the weekend, actually. At what point do the Welsh rugby public get fed up with this?
About 4 games ago.
I just wonder at what point, though, is patience going to start to wear thin? Because I think at the moment he's just about getting away with it. But at what point do those people who say give Gatland time, he's got a young squad, when do they start turning?
They won't, because they drink the Kool-Aid. They drink in the Kool-Aid that is pumped out through Gatland, right? He's a master manipulator of the media, right? In that he's great at giving sound bites. He does slip up. A lot of people call him Joe Biden because he's starting to slip up a bit. But
he's not that old and doddery. Let's not go that far.
But he is very good at telling the casuals what they want to hear.
Exactly. Yeah. He's got the casuals on side. That's what I mean by like the Welsh rugby public.
And I think he can go into November, unless we lose against Fiji, which is a possibility because the Fiji to the casual are still seen as, oh, look, lads, they're not even pro, whereas we know that Drua exists, we know that Moana Pacifica exists and things like that. So he can go into a series against, was it South Africa, New Zealand, Fiji? Or is it Australia?
Australia.
But we can go against big top Southern Hemisphere teams who, remember, to the casuals, Australia is still Stephen Larkham, George Gregan, they still remember that, or even further back. So he's got the casuals on the side. Unfortunately, we live in an echo chamber on our social media, right? With the same people who ultimately isn't going to make a difference. And you can, Wales Online can do as many podcasts as they want. Scrum 5 can do as many podcasts. We can do as many podcasts as we want, calling it out. It's not going to make an iota of difference because he's got the casuals on side. And he will do for the whole calendar year, I think.
Interesting.
To answer go back to the original question, I do agree. I think losing to Fiji probably will start turning people over. I think another winless Six Nations. I think you're going to start having people like two. Hang on, what? We've never got the wooden spoon twice. Like they could have said, oh, well, once. We had it once when we were building the team, and then 2 years later we won a Grand Slam. That you could see them buying that spiel. I don't think we're going to. I said, I hope we don't get to that point. Because I think the first thing, I don't think you're going to see the public outcry of Gatland out. You're going to see the casual drinkers thinking, especially with the ticket prices going up again. I think they're going to go, do you know what? Maybe I'll just go straight to the nightclub or just spend the whole day in the pub. Why go in there? Why am I paying £8 a pint?
Yeah, that's what I heard at WRU, isn't it? When the casuals and the event goers stay away, when they watch it at home or in the pubs and clubs. I think that's what's really going to push the message through.
That's a very important point. We talk about the casual fans and stuff, but the truth of the matter is, they're paying the game until season ticket holders at the regions are happy to pay £1,000 a ticket, and probably even more than that to get to a point where the regions could fund themselves, and then the WRU would have to beg us to release players and pay. And make it be more of an equal partnership, and we're not and the game's not solely relying on the international money. We are at the beck and call of the jeans, the chinos, and brown shoe, because they're the ones who are pumping in a shit ton of money and don't give a shit. So that's almost a reliable income.
And the pink sparkly cowboy hats as well. Don't forget, and the daft hats.
Don't diss the pink scout. Don't diss the pink cowboy hats. I like a pink cowboy hat.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, I think we'll leave it there for this week, gents. Now, do any of you have any podcasts you want to promote coming up? Harley, do you do a Cardiff Central one this week?
Potentially, it's dependent on a guest, so we'll put it out through the medias.
What obscure Cardiff player is it this week?
I don't. It's not a player, actually.
Oh, okay. You're interviewing the tea lady that never existed in your stand because they didn't do tea.
They do now. So screw you.
Only because you whinged.
No, I asked politely on a podcast.
I can announce that we are interviewing Toby Booth at some point.
That's great. Look forward to that.
We're just trying to nail down a date. They've only just come back in camp today because I don't know if you knew, but we made it to the quarterfinals, so we had an extra week off.
Yeah, well done. And you won as many quarterfinals as the rest of us as well.
So I finish work on Friday, so I'm free after that. So hopefully nailing down a date soon. So look out for that on the Ospreys Irish social media. It's basically my account.
It's not your. I know you're the only one who does it, but it
is my muse. It is my lasting legacy.
Good stuff. No Dragon Slayer podcast until August. I have been busy recruiting some guests. I got Nathan Brew coming on soon, which I'm looking forward to.
Once saw Nathan Brew in a garden centre restaurant where he put an obscene amount of ketchup on his breakfast.
Save it for Blood and Mud, mate. Save it for Blood.
I was going to say that's a player spotted for the Blood and Mud podcast.
That was sent in years ago.
Did it ever get read out?
It did, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to chatting to him, and he's a pundit now on S4C as well. So
very good pundit as well.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that one.
I can't speak Welsh, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he is a very good pundit if we could actually speak the language and understand it. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much for joining me, gents, and thank you all for listening. We'll be back for the new season. I'm not sure we'll be doing another wrap pod now, will we? Until maybe start of the the new season, pre-season time, I think.
I think the plan is maybe a pre-season pod, just to sort of start off league year predictions and stuff. And we will be trying out a new video calling software, so there's that to look forward to if you're a nerd.
Excellent.
Like
Excited stuff. Yeah. And thank you all to our listeners for supporting us throughout the season. It's much appreciated. And if you could like and subscribe, leave us a kind review, tell your mates about us, that'll be much appreciated. But until the new season starts, take care and goodbye.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to the Rap Podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed recording it. Please do rate us and tell your friends, as it really helps us to grow and get better. We'll be back next week with more of the same, and until then, enjoy your rugby.
Sports Social Podcast Network.